Hello, in this video we're going to be talking to you about the muscles of the arm. So let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Now, when we're talking about muscles of the arm, one of the things we want to emphasize right up front is the fact that along with talking about the names, we're going to be talking about the actions as well. So we'll spend some time, talking about the primary muscle that creates the motion or the action, and then all those supporting muscles that either one help or two are the opposites, the antagonizers, with the purpose of keeping the balance, keeping everything more in rhythm as far as the motion and providing that resistance, so you just don't fall over, for lack of a better example. But when we are talking about muscles of the arm, we'll start with the forearm, and of course, there's the forearm. That's that inside part here, the part that Popeye, if you know who that is. His forearms were so big. That's what. So we're talking about the inside of the arm, not just the bottom half of the arm, but that is muscles on the inside that you can feel, right in there. So when we talk about those, I mean, one of the things you're going to see in a picture here in a few scenes, is that it isn't just one big muscle. Like if your thigh muscle is one big muscle, but in the arm it's a little differently because it's like layers of muscles. So each individual, they're individual muscles, but they're sitting so close that it's hard to tell that there are multiple ones there. The bicep is another good example of what we're talking about here. They're layered, and there are several strands, and they each have names. That's the fun part of that. You can see that brachialis. We got the bicep brachii, and there are several others in there. And the picture diagram kind of has them in layers, so you can see that as far as how that sets. But as we continue to talking about this is one of the things I was talking about, the motions. When we flex our elbow, bend it, flex it. Uh, the brachiodalis, flexes that. And you can see the opposite of that, the anacosis, extends it. And we're going to show also a diagram where the arm is in supination, pronation, and that motion of kind of flipping it over, and the muscles that are acting on the ulnar radius and the elbow. Power off. Things. Oh, that was the Bluetooth speaker. I forgot to turn that off before I got started here. So it is powered off. So let's see, back to what I was thinking. Yeah, so we're going to show that because that's the more important. If you're headed to the medical field, it's one thing to know the names. If you're headed to maybe be a physical therapist or something like that, occupational therapist, you want to know the action parts as well. So we will certainly showcase those. All right, so here's that diagram that I mentioned. It is kind of small. It's in our textbook and also in the PowerPoint that is on the classroom stream. But you can see in the far right hand side, the top one, it's got kind of that bottom layer where it just kind of pulls out the bicep brachia and kind of shows you that aspect of it is. And then of course the one on the far left, it kind of has all the layers, and then the one again far right bottom, that's the backside, that's the tricep area. But you can see, and I know the words are kind of small, But again, got it in a textbook, got it in our PowerPoint. But you can see the various layers. You got your bicep brachii, as we mentioned. You got the brachialis. Just kind of creating that different layers. And when we bring the models over from Crowder, both arm and leg, you'll be able to see those individual strands. And of course, with the idea of making sure that we, can point at those and talk about the names and differentiate those muscles. Okay, here's the action one that I meant, and you can see kind of the descriptions underneath. Supination, when the palm is up, and if it's hanging down, it naturally would face forward, and so that's the anterior forward. And then when it's turned over, so now it'd be facing down in this situation, or if I've turned it and now the palm is facing backwards, if I was walking, that would be the posterior, back, just like it's used anterior, posterior, those direction things, or superior, inferior, those are lesser common references. But you can see that, and there's a good look at the ulna and radius, and as we turn that hand, you can see the muscles that are associated with providing that action, helping that action. You can try to go one more way around, and obviously we can't go, because of the structure of the elbow, we can't go this way, but it does provide some flexion. And if you just think about that, just think of all the things that we couldn't do if we didn't have that. Like unscrewing a jar. You want to open up a jar of spaghetti sauce or something. If you couldn't, I guess that's more wrist and hand. So I guess maybe a screwdriver would be something like that. You'd have to just, I guess we've just invented the drill earlier and just used drills only. So, but that provides some things would be less easier to do without that motion. Now, we've talked compartments a couple of times, and here's another look at these compartments. You can kind of see they're color coded. Again, I know it's kind of small, but again, they're in your textbook, be in the PowerPoint, certainly for you to pull up and look at. But you can see this color coded section. That's obviously the bone there in the middle. So the top two pictures obviously would be the upper part of the arm that just has the one bone, and then the bottom picture there would be the forearm section that has the ulna and radius in it. But you can see the various compartments, and again, it's color coded. So when we talk about which compartments are helping to create a particular action, like if we would say this action is created by the anterior compartment of the bicep, then you can see which muscles are associated with that, or the posterior, or the medial, or lateral. That's how that would be referenced. Okay, on our last screen, which is probably good news, because a lot of these bone and muscle videos have been really long, but I don't have to tell you that. You've been writing down the notes and stuff, and listening a little bit shorter. So Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, whatever you want to call that. So when we think about the wrist, the last part we did the arm, wrist, and then the next video will be the hand. But in between there, we got the wrist. And one of the things that you're going to learn and see within the hand is that even though all this action with your fingers, takes muscles, obviously, it isn't. And you can, seeing how, you can feel bones in there, and you got a little bit of meat here and a little bit of meat here. But other than that, I mean, it feels like it's just about all bone in there. And what you're going to see, and you can see it from this diagram, is that the attachment parts to the fingers, the muscles that operate that, are all here in the arm. And the attachment to the fingers, as you can see the white in the diagram there, is basically the tendons, those long tendons that reach up in there. And then you can, as you move each finger, you can see a different muscle or different section move here. I don't have great finger coordination. I can't really move one at a time, and I'm trying not to leave the wrong one up by itself. That's what I meant to say. But you can see the muscles moving here in the wrist, and that's where the action comes from. Wrist and forearm, and then you can see in the diagram just those long white tendons that reach up and pull those down, or if you're trying to pinch something, or you're writing, it's where those muscles come from, or the action comes from. Well, that's our video over the muscles of the forearm. When we get together next time, we'll be talking about muscles of the hand. We'll see you then.